experiences. So we would love for you to watch those, share them with folks, use them in places that are going to be helpful for people to better understand what are the needs of this population. Want to say thank you, of course, to Baker McKenzie, Jackie, and team for letting us be here in this amazingly beautiful space. Pretty impressive. Thank you so much. Very, very grateful to be here and to have a space to share this information with you all. Also, a big thank you to, and they're going to introduce themselves, but Center for the Study of Social Policy, Children's Rights, and Lambda Legal for your partnership on this report and this endeavor. We've made a big team. It'll be sad to not have Safe Havens calls anymore to check in with you all the time. The other thing is just a big thank you to our youth contributors. You're going to meet them very, very soon, but to all of you, just really a lot of gratitude for you being a part of this work, for spending time talking to me as a total stranger, saying, hey, I have some questions, and what do you think we should do to fix all of this? So thank you very much for sharing. Yes, good round of applause. This report has some unique features to it. We really wanted to focus in on non-binary youth as a population that hasn't been talked about enough and is definitely under attack a lot more. So that is one thing you'll see here. The other thing that this update did differently is when they did the first Safe Havens report, there were youth contributor voices in it, but they were a bit more anonymous. It was just done differently. We wanted to update that, and so Curry invited me into the project to, as a person with lived experience in care and as a queer and trans person, to meet with people with shared lived experience, to get their perspectives, their stories, and to put it on video, and to have it on audio, and just make it a more interactive experience for folks. So that is hopefully something you'll see and feel that is different about this sort of information. So with that, we're going to do some introductions of our orgs to get us going before we do our youth contributor panel. So my organization is Unicorn Solutions. It's me and my lovely virtual assistant. But a lot of the work that I do is focused on youth impacted by systems that are LGBTQ and trying to make sure that systems are improved and better for them, but especially that listen to them and ask them, what do you need? What should that look like? And this project is a great example of the work that I'm very grateful to do and really enjoy doing. And so Unicorn Solutions for me was, how can I formalize a way to do this work that also lets me say what I want to say in the ways that I want to say it versus some of the constraints I felt in prior sort of government experiences that have their limitations. So really grateful to be here. And so with that, I'm going to invite CSSP to introduce themselves next.
Hi everybody, my name is Alex Citron. My pronouns are she, hers. I'm a senior associate at the Center for the Study of Social Policy. And I'm joined by my colleagues Alex Kocha and Joshua Perrin here, who you'll get to hear from later. CSSP is a national nonprofit. We work at the policy level, we work with systems, and we work with communities, parents, and young people. Our mission is about having a society and supporting a society that is racially, economically, and socially just, and where all children, youth, and families can thrive. And core to our work has been our support for advancing policies and practices that are inclusive and affirm the identities of LGBTQ+ and trans, non-binary, and gender diverse young people. So we're really excited to be here with you all today. As Elliot said, we know what children, youth, and families need to thrive, right? We know what LGBTQ+, trans, non-binary, gender diverse young people need to thrive, right? Research has told us this, young people tell us this, right? We need to have communities that are affirming, that are accepting. Young people need homes where they feel loved, supported, connections to adults who can support them, schools that are inclusive and accepting. But all too often, while we have seen some progress in some specific states, and I want to acknowledge that, we are seeing active attacks against young people and their identities. And we really appreciate the opportunity to be a part of Safe Havens and Safe Havens 2, and to lift up recommendations from young people themselves and from the research from our policy experience that help us to understand where we go from here. How can we do better? How can we create communities, support communities and families, and reform systems and advance policies where all young people are affirmed, accepted, safe, loved. And so with that, I'm gonna end my 2 sentences, and that was more than 2 sentences, let's not lie, my 2 minutes, and I will pass it to Curry.
Children's Rights.
Children's Rights.
Who wants to introduce?
Danielle.
Hi, thank you all so much for coming, and thank you to the co-authors, and thank you to Baker and McKenzie and Jackie for all you've done to make this possible, and especially the youth contributors, because you have made this report as meaningful as it is. So it's been great to have all of you contribute, and wonderful, and thank you for being here too. My name is Danielle Gerard. I'm a senior staff attorney at Children's Rights. We're based in New York. We're a national advocacy organization that works to make life better for children in government systems, whether it's child welfare, juvenile legal, immigration, education, and especially right now, healthcare. A third of our clients in child welfare systems and approximately 15% in juvenile legal systems identify as LGBTQ+, and in the general population, LGBTQ+ youth face higher rates of mental health conditions. Nearly 40% of youth experiencing homelessness identify as LGBTQ+. And so Children's Rights uses civil rights, impact litigation, advocacy, policy, and public education to hold governments accountable for keeping kids safe and healthy. Our work centers on creating lasting systemic change that will advance the rights of children for generations. And we're so grateful to have partners like CSSP and Lambda and Elliot.
Thanks, Danielle. Last but certainly not least, Curry Cook, Lambda Legal.
Hi everyone, my name is Curry Cook. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm Senior Counsel and Director of the Youth and Out of Home Care Project at Lambda Legal, which is just kind of the mouthful we use to describe advocacy for LGBTQ+ youth that are involved in foster care systems, juvenile legal systems, youth experiencing homelessness, and also done some advocacy for undocumented LGBTQ+ youth. Folks are probably familiar with Lambda Legal, but we're the oldest and largest organization that works for the civil rights of LGBTQ+ people and everyone living with HIV. We do that through a mix of litigation and policy advocacy and public education. We are also suing a lot of states right now at this moment because they need to be sued because they're doing bad things and harming our community, and particularly, as we'll hear more about today, we all know there have just been record-breaking numbers of anti-LGBTQ laws passed, and that many of those have specifically targeted trans and non-binary young people, and very intentionally so. And so while we do have to sue people because they keep doing bad things, we also want to lift up good things that are happening, and more importantly, really lift up the voices of those with lived experience. And I think Elia is just an extraordinary example of leadership and folks who have lived experience with systems that definitely had challenges, but also have received support, because there are a lot of amazing supportive people out there, and we'll hear about some of them for our youth contributors today. And so while we're going to talk about the harm, because we're also going to lift up the good stuff that's happening and things that have made a difference for folks. So we're excited for you to be here with that, and we're excited to continue to grow the community of support that all these young people really deserve. So thank you for being here and being part of that. And thank you for being here too.
Thank you, Curry. Just wanted to say, related to the lived experience, it was an honor to get to do this work, and I would challenge you, if you're an organization or an entity or a government org, to find opportunities to give us opportunities. There's a lot of really talented queer people who deserve investment, deserve internships, jobs, scholarships, all of that, and I don't think it would be too hard to make that happen. I know from the past year of applying to things, there's not many, and it's really hard to find them, but there should be more. So I challenge you to find ways to do that, because any of these youth contributors would be amazing assets to any organization. So with that, I want to invite Baker to tell us about Baker.
All right, everyone, get your internal revenue codes out. Hi, everybody. My name is Jackie Campbell, and I get the great privilege and honor of being a pro bono partner here at Baker & McKenzie. I lead up all of our North American pro bono work, and through that have gotten such tremendous opportunities to work with Lambda Legal, work with Unicorn Solutions, work with Children's Rights. As far as our pro bono goes, we're always looking to fight the biggest challenges. And it goes without saying that the LGBTQ youth everywhere are facing some of the biggest challenges. So it is our hope and our duty that we want to be involved in as many fights as we can to help support the legal rights of young people. But part of that for us as well is also helping lift up your voice and elevate you and give you the opportunity to be in a great space like that. So it's truly our honor to have you in this space. I was telling someone earlier that I spent the earlier part of my career, I've been at Baker 18 years, and I spent the earlier part of my career in the tax department, and I spent more nights than you can count in this very room editing tax briefs. And I'm going to tell you, you guys I'm much more excited about this program than editing a tax brief in this room. But we're just really delighted to have you and have you in this space, and I can't wait to hear what comes today. We don't do anything in pro bono alone. So we're a small but mighty team, but we rely on our amazing colleagues. And I want my colleague Michael to introduce himself as well, because he's really been the engine behind making everything happen. So I'm giving the accolades, but I'm throwing them at Michael because they really belong to him.
Thank you, Jackie. My name is Michael Basser. Pronouns are he and him. I'm a lawyer in the transactional group. That's my day job. I've been here for 5 years. I've recently had the honor of serving as the co-chair of the Washington, D.C. IDE committee. And then for about almost 2 years, I've been serving as co-chair of our North America Baker Pride Plus Allies affiliate network. And I will say it probably has to be the most rewarding role I've ever had in my career. I just want to say that we're all excited to have you here. It's very rare where we can be open and be true to ourselves in our workplace. And one of the amazing things about Baker is that they really do value the diversity that we have here, and they want us to be included. And so it's been an amazing role here. I do want to plug our upcoming Pride panel. We're doing a great session on protecting trans and non-binary rights, stories from the front line. So we're going to be having a representative from Lambda Legal, a representative from Southern Law Center, one of our partners here who's also doing pro bono work, and one of our clients who's the mother of a trans daughter, to basically talk about the fights that are going around the country, what great organizations like Lambda is doing, what we are doing within Baker, and also what it's been like as a parent of a trans youth. So I want to thank Dominique for being here. I'm a huge fan. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to host.
We have a few really quick housekeeping items to make sure your time with us is comfortable. First and foremost, there are beverages all out there. Please help yourself. There's cold beverages. There's a fancy coffee machine. You just drop the pot in. I learned it quick, so you guys can definitely learn it faster than me. Please help yourself. If you need Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi instructions are on the back in a little framed, but we have a guest network, so please help yourselves. And then you want to hit the restrooms and have
I'll leave the fun stuff for you. So we have a single stall restroom up here on 12, right out here. And then we have a number of all gender restrooms on 10. However, you do need, firm policies, you do need a Baker employee to escort you down there if you need to use that one. So if there's a line and you can't wait, just come find myself, Jackie, or someone else from Baker, and we're happy to escort you down. And then at 4 o'clock, once the program is over, we're going to have some wine and beer and some hors d'oeuvres out here to celebrate the launch. So thanks again for everyone joining.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
All right, almost ready to transition. Really quick, could you raise your hand if you're an attorney? Okay, we have some attorneys. If you're a policy person, be it you work in policy, do policy things, great. Anybody here who's like doing direct service type of work? Okay, so we've got our policy, we've got our attorney, so a lot of what we're talking about will hopefully be helpful to you in the ways that you either want to do litigation or you do policy advocacy as we talk today. And I really invite you to think about how might the stories and the experiences of these young people really benefit you in understanding how to make those things better. But without further ado, I would like to introduce who we're also very excited to have here, Dominique Jackson. Dominique Jackson is a model, actress, and author who is best known for her performance as the lead role Electra in Pose for FX, and recently starred as Bloody Mary in the weekly anthology spin-off series American Horror Stories. Dominique can also be seen in an arc on American Gods on Starz, the feature film Chick Fight opposite Malin Eckerman, Bella Thorne, and Fortune Feimster, and as a guest host on Legendary, which was so good, for HBO Max, where Dominique's appearance went viral. Dominique also released her autobiography, The Transsexual from Chicago, and was seen on the reality TV model fashion show Strut for Oxygen. So please, a round of applause for Dominique Jackson. So, youth contributors, so Emilio, Sean, Kaden, Gina, Jackson, and Paris, if you want to come up here, we're going to have our panel discussion.
Oh, come on, we gotta do it better than that.
More excitement, more clapping.
Yeah! Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for these brave youth who have had the courage to tell their stories so that you can make policies and make changes to make a betterment for their lives.
Thank you. So just make sure that the mic, you might have to like pick it up, it sort of falls, but make sure it's close to you when you talk.
Okay, so you all look quite,
You can take it out, yes.
thank you. You all look quite amazing, I must say. And I would like for you all to introduce yourselves, tell us your name, your pronouns, and a little bit about who you are.
Anyone can go first. Yes.
My name is Jackson Claymore. I'm from Rapid City, South Dakota, Pahasapa, the Black Hills. And I'm a family ambassador at the Discovery Program. It's an after-school program. I'm the one who keeps the connections between family, staff, and students. So I answer the phone. I talk to the parents. Yeah, that's me.
Awesome.
Oh, I'm two-spirited. My pronouns are he, him. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, you can take it out of the thing if you want, it's okay.
Is this working? Okay, it's working. I am Caden Asher. I use they, them pronouns. I'm currently a paralegal student at Austin Community College. And I've been doing that for the past 2 years, I think. And I'm also from Texas. Do whatever you want.
Hi, I'm Paris. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm a hairstylist.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, good to see everyone here today. My name is Gina Michu. I am a young person who grew up in Southeast Los Angeles, and I live in New York City. I, for over a decade now, have been doing environmental and social justice activism, and also have been working in the policy and legislative advocacy as well, and especially doing it for the young people in our current generations, and to all the ones that will be coming ahead of us. And I use she, they, them pronouns, and I'm a trans person.
Wow.
Hey everybody. Oh wait, this is Hey everybody. My name is Sean. I go by he, him. I'm 24. I currently live in California, Fresno. I will be going to school to be a veterinarian in the fall, and I currently work as an employment specialist for foster youth.
Hello, I'm always scared of these things. My name is Emilio Antonio Valladolid. I use they, them, theirs pronouns, and I am 22. What else? I'm from San Diego, California, and I go to San Diego State University studying psychology and sociology, and I spend a lot of my time doing opportunities, whatever I may find that help marginalized communities. I'm a former foster youth and have been involved in a lot of those kinds of systems, and I just have always had a place in my heart for the people around me that I see struggle, and I do whatever I can to advocate for people like me and people who aren't like me as well, who just need that extra support.
Wow. And it's like hearing you and hearing each of you introduce yourselves, I find it cruel for anyone to form policies against you. You are phenomenal human beings, each and every one of you. And now, I want you to brag about yourselves.
Yeah.
You told us about who you are. Seriously, brag about yourselves. Tell me what's happening in your world. What's going on in school, work, your just brag. Don't just tell us the amazing things you're doing. Get this space and let us know it.
I'm getting top surgery on the 22nd.
And what does that mean for you?
It means that I can finally just be myself and feel comfortable in my body. So I'm very excited.
That is awesome. Congratulations.
That's super exciting. Congratulations. I would say, when I think of bragging about myself, I think I've come a long way from being a trans youth who entered care because of being trans. And I think I'm doing a lot of good things.
You think?
Yeah. I think I could have gone a lot of different places and had a lot of, opportunities that I let slip by, and I think I'm taking hold of that and empowering myself. And I think that's like one of the things that I really want to, give to other people as well, that empowerment and that opportunity to speak from lived experience.
Wow. Well, let me tell you, darling, don't think, because you are doing, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, cool. I also entered foster care because I was trans. When I was young, I was told, don't come out, ruin your life, you can't do anything once you come out, everyone's gonna hate you, all that stuff. Which, as a Texan, in my state, is kind of true. But I have been able to overcome that. I am a paralegal student, never thought I would go to college. I do work with, I ended my internship this week with Disability Rights Texas, which was really cool and really fun. And then I also do a lot of advocacy work. I've testified since I was 17 at the Texas legislature, which is terrifying and really hard.
Yeah.
I think I had some of them tell me I knew nothing and I was dumb and I didn't know what I was talking about, so that's fun. I've gone on trips, I've spoken about my experience, I get to do things like this, which is really fun and really cool. I've also worked in Travis County, my home county, the county where I live, with CPS to help improve that system and help county funding, like going to CPS to figure that out. So that's been really cool. And I've done work with my school. I also was in a Texas Tribune article, I'm gonna plug that.
Yeah.
And they did it about trans youth in Texas, so if you want to read really good journalism, read the Texas Tribune.
Yeah. There you go, yeah.
I guess one of the things that I'm super proud of is, I know it's not about me, but it's my Unchi, my grandmother, who I love so very much, but she's actually the face of dignity, and she's also the first woman to be on a license plate, even an indigenous woman. And that's another thing I'm super proud of, is that I am indigenous and I am two-spirited. And two-spirited people have been in our culture for as long as I can remember, but people seem to have forgotten about that with the colonization. So I'm here to remind people that two-spirited people exist, and so do indigenous people. Some people still think we are extinct. We are not. I am living proof. And I always say this so proudly, is I was raised by a full-blooded Lakota woman who was raised by a man who was raised by free people. He was born in 1919, and his mother were free people living in teepees. And that's one thing I'm super proud of, is my culture and my heritage. Like these earrings, they were made from the sterling silver that made dignity. So I am everything that my ancestors did.
Yeah, just to be close.
But I would guess I would just say like I'm proud of myself for being a girl from the country.
Yeah.
You know, living out loud, comfortable, and just showing other people that are younger than me and older than me that you know you can just do whatever, just be comfortable.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that was amazing.
Gina, did you?
Oh,
If you
my
want to.
apologies.
You don't have to. No, it's okay. If you want to.
Yeah, of course. I'm okay with taking the mic next. What can I brag about myself? Well, I am undocumented. I immigrated at the age of 2. It will be 25 years approximately in September that I have been here in this country. And funny enough, in September is Mexican Independence Day, and I am Mexican. I have myself done a lot as a person who comes from a very disadvantaged community. I am a high school dropout, and though I am a high school dropout that doesn't hold a high school diploma, I have succeeded in being in spaces in the nonprofit sector and generally anywhere I can be visible and take space and learn from people from my community. And I'm proud to be queer. I'm proud to be undocumented and learn about what it takes to figure out how to be free. Although I don't hold citizenship, I believe that any human being should be free, and I'm always fighting for that. And I love music. Yes, I love music. It's something I turn to when I have anxiety. It's something I turn to when I have depression. I'm someone who has depression, someone who has anxiety, and generally fights a lot with my mental health. I go to therapy. I never fail to remind my therapist that, even therapists themselves need therapy. And I always, remind her, that I always feel bad because I go in and take space, but she reminds me to take space. And yes, I'm someone who is very highly aware of myself and the world, and I know what I need, and although I can't always access my needs, I'm always trying to figure it out.
Wow. So I commend you, my love, because I know what that experience is like of being undocumented. I came to the US in 1990 and was not able to get a green card until 2015. And it was a fight and it was a struggle, but I came out so much better for it. I don't take anything in life for granted, and I just want you to know that you have my full support. And I commend you and thank you for showing up the way that you are. You all are so very moving. I hope you, can you just please give them all a round of applause? Yes. Why is supporting trans, non-binary, and gender diverse youth impacted by systems important? Whichever one.
I'll go ahead.
Emilio, Paris, and Gina.
I'll let Gina go first. Okay. It's important to me that youth practice rights to their youth autonomy to the best of their ability as well, and to hold power of decision making for their needs and for them not to be silenced. I believe that youth are powerful and they too deserve justice, as we all witness nowadays how children are being trigger warning, murdered, escaping persecution in disadvantaged countries, and how we're seeing young people in academic spaces having the rights to speak out against genocide and their right to freedom of speech violated. And so as a young person with lived experience, it's especially important to me that youth have the right to express themselves and what it means for them to conquer and come to their senses of what justice means to them. But it's also very important for me to be present here today and have this mic to share with you all my experience and what makes me feel passionate to be a youth advocate. For example, this morning, I was alienated from my group, and I was not able to take this silly tour in the White House, and because Secret Service might have thought I was a threat to them or to the space, and I was denied entrance. And for me, being in that building, I'm not too sure what it would have been like, but I was excited for it, and I received the notice the day before I came for this trip that I wasn't allowed into the White House. And it's just a reminder of the millions of Americans and undocumented people and just taxpayers that are paying for this building behind me. And we're just gonna continue to fight for what it means to be in there, whether it be someone who's undocumented, a citizen, or just any person to not be alienated. And I am just too queer, too trans, and too much for the White House, apparently. And I will continue to fight for justice, the current, and the many generations that come, as I said, and never stop advocating for youth to come, to be a priority, and to challenge problematic legislation, to make room for acceptable and changes to outdated policy here in this country, nationally, on the state and local level. And I might not be here to stay, but I'm here today, and I'm proud to stand alongside youth who are LGBTQIA+, TGNC, and standing up for their justice. And generally, I also just want to say it louder: we must protect Black, trans, and TGNC people. And we must step up and be at the front lines for Black lives.
I am so sorry about your experience
and
with
Indigenous
the
people
White.
too.
I do apologize, and I'm so sorry that you had to experience that with the White House. But on the path that you're going, I'm quite sure you will be in there soon. Changing the world.
So I think it's very important because I come from the country, so everyone's really religious and things like that. So when you have youth in foster care and whatnot, I think it's just very important to have those policies in place so that religion and people's personal lives don't intertwine with what I'm saying, like me being in care and being taken care of.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I come from, like I said, I was in care, and I really experienced firsthand what it means to be an LGBTQ youth in these systems. And I can really say that it's just a really difficult experience, and I just, not just my experience, but as I watched the people around me, I watched what certain rules that we have and certain treatment that we get, and how damaging it really is. And I think it's important to stand up for trans and non-binary and gender diverse youth because we matter just as much as everybody else. And I am really a big advocate for giving people the confidence and independence to do what makes them feel successful. And So I think without support in place, there is no, I'm a big believer of like collective community and just supporting people to do what they really think is best for themselves. So I think without that support and without that empowerment, it's difficult to really know yourself and really know what you stand up for. And we do it anyways, you know? We don't always get that support or that, you know, have those protections in place, and we do it anyways. So I think not standing up for us is important, but also letting us stand up for ourselves and tell you what we need is just such a vital part of empowering the next generation and, you know, building up a stronger base so that we can have, I think you know where I'm going here, just like, just a strong country and a fair, just space for everyone, not just those in power.
So each of you have navigated systems, services, and connections. Can you share who the person or who were the people who supported you through those times? And how important were these folks? And this goes to Sean, Jackson, and Paris.
I'll go first. So growing up in the system, it was really hard being in the LGBTQ community because I wasn't supposed to be. I tried to come out or tried to talk about it and then was taken to church and told that like they were gonna pray the gay out of me. So it's terrifying, but then finally like I was able to come out to my grandmother, my birth grandmother. We reunited and she was the first person to accept me, the first person to say that it doesn't matter what you are, who you are, I love you, I care about you, I just want you to be okay. And accepted me for me. So now I aspire to be that for everybody else, just accepting and loving whoever you are, whatever you are, because life is short, and if not you, then who's gonna do it?
Grandmas. And I'm telling you, I think a lot of us just have that grandma story. It's the grandmas. Like, please continue.
So I would say I was put out by my mom. So I was put into a group home, and there I was given support from one of the youth counselors named Celicia. We're still friends to this day. But she was just very impactful with just making me feel comfortable. And just giving me space to just be myself and be open, carefree, just be a kid at the time. So yeah.
And that's so important, just to be able to be, I had to allow them to be kids. Yeah. Continue, please.
I was 15 and I was currently houseless, and I was just trying to do whatever I could, whether that was going to a program and they would feed me every day, and I get to hang out there and then go back to my hotel room with my grandparents. But then they decided to introduce me to Bailey, who is a social worker. I had a pattern of flaking, and that's 100% what I was gonna do with Bailey. And she didn't let me. She came knocking on my hotel room door. My grandmother answered the door, and she's like, "Where's Jackson?" And my grandmother would be, "Who's Jackson?" Oh. And she used my given name. But the 3 years that I had known her after that, she has given me the confidence, she has given me the pridefulness of being who I am. She's mixed indigenous too with me, and so I could really relate to her. And she just kept telling me that, because I kept telling her, like, I don't think there's room for me in my culture. I don't think, I think I just have to step away. I think I'll just have to live a life with no tugasha, which just broke me. And here, she's the one who did the research. She's the one who pulled elders who have told me that there have been two-spirited people. They have lived and they have been honored and they have been looked after and they have brought inspiration. And I had no idea. But seeing this, it gave me hope. And she really did. She gave me hope. She helped me find a place after I was 18. I had came out a week before I was 18. We already had it all figured out. There's nothing my family could do other than just say, okay. And so I really owe everything to Bailey, and I just hope that I can, bring as much hope and courage to the Indigenous youth as she did to me.
Kaden, have you seen or felt impacts of anti-LGBTQ+ laws? If so, what has that been like for you?
Definitely. So in Texas, there are a bunch, but one that was really impactful to me and my friends and my community was the ban on gender-affirming care for trans and non-binary youth. It's not allowed anymore, and I'm gonna get emotional and cry.
It's okay.
We're here for you.
I know people who can't access that care anymore. I know people who had to leave. And it hurts because I got that care. I actually had to reach out to Lambda Legal to be able to get that care. Because CPS at the time was like, it's experimental, it can't happen. And I was able to get that care 2 months before my 18th birthday, and it helped. It changed my life, and it saved me. And so to not allow people to get that care, it hurts. And I know they're coming for me next. I know they're coming for adults. And I love my state, I love my home, but I'm gonna have to leave one day, and it's terrifying, and it's scary, and it hurts. I live in Austin, so we have a really good community, a really great city for queer people, but again, it's getting smaller. Our community is dwindling day by day. I have friends who moved all the way to New Zealand to escape this because they knew. They were like, we may be able to leave the state, but when's it gonna happen federally? When's it gonna come to the new place we live at? And it's scary, it's terrifying. There's queer people, especially Black queer people, who are killed every day in this country because they are Black and queer. And, hearing these stories, talking to people, hearing their stories, telling my story, it just breaks my heart because it hurts. And you hear people say, Texas is purple, it's not red. And they're right to some extent, but our government is red. And I think another thing that hasn't been like national news, but came out in Texas a couple years ago, I think, was our state CPS system decided that gender dysphoria was no longer a medical condition that needed care. They said that, it's a mental health thing, but because it's a mental health thing, there's no treatment for it. You just need a conversion therapy. That's all you need. And that's hurt. Our foster system is broken. It is terrible. It is hell. I was in Christian placements forever and ever, and they were mean. I couldn't be myself. I had to have a therapist sneak in a binder that she bought on Amazon for me, and she had to talk to us about it, and they both, worked to get this for me, but they were getting pushed back the whole time. And it hurts because I was told I was a danger to others. I was told, oh, the other girls, you can't come out because it'll put them in danger, or they'll feel uncomfortable. And I think it's stupid that they would need to feel uncomfortable in around me. So yeah.
Okay, Lambda Legal, how many more lawsuits are we getting together? Okay. Emilia?
Oh, my bad, I'm sorry.
I really I got a little bit angry there for a second.
Us too.
It's can we just let people live? All these restrictions. So all of you that are policymakers involved in all of this, get to work. Get to work. The Safe Havens 2 report and the accompanying videos hold many recommendations from you all for system change in support of you and your peers. Can you share some of those, Emilia and Kaden?
Yes. Just to kind of backtrack to what Kaden was saying, I think it's really unfortunate because I mean, I live in California and I hear what Kaden's saying and it breaks my heart and I can relate to it like 100%. So I think there's a huge need for system change because from one end to another, every queer person that I meet, especially like who's been in government systems like foster care, but just really every queer person that I meet, I always hear the same stories, like given over and over again, and I hear stories of violence and of essentially persecution. They're common. I feel like there's a huge, like you're drawn to thinking like that it won't happen to you or that it doesn't happen in your community, and it totally does. And it's a huge issue, so I think there's a huge need for system change in so many different areas, particularly in foster care and in juvenile justice settings. I see a lot of really horrible things. For me specifically, like I was in really the highest level of care in San Diego. I don't know if it's in California, but I was in the highest level of care. I was in a lockdown facility, and I experienced that same narrative of like, oh, we can't put you with other people, you're a danger, or what if you make them uncomfortable? And no one ever stopped to like ask me if I was uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah.
What?
And just with that, like, there's just so much need for improvement, but there's also so much need for protection. I was, when I finally got downgraded to just one level of care less, I was still at a group home, and no one listened to me when things got violent, and I ended up getting hate crimed. And I wasn't taken out of the group home even after that fact until I had a ton of the other youth that lived there get holders, and they said they were gonna stone me. So I think there's a huge need for protection and for, even just things to do afterwards, because we're at the point in where this is common practice, and there's no way to come back from that. They just move you. They just tell you to forget about it. They tell you to talk to your therapist about it, and that's just not enough. There needs to be more different ways to heal and more different opportunities for us to not only feel protected, but to feel truly safe and supported, because being safe is just the base level of things, right? We want every youth to be safe, but then to feel that extra support, that binder, or for me it was testosterone. I went on testosterone when I was 17, and my mom had my rights at the time. She didn't want me to go on it, so I had to fight in court to go on it, and the judge was gracious enough to award me because he saw my diagnosis of gender dysphoria, and he saw that it was what I needed to save my life. So, yeah.
My heart goes out to you, sweetheart. Thank you for your bravery and your courage.
this is my favorite part. First of all, accountability. These systems, if no one holds them accountable, they're gonna keep on doing it. And they're gonna go harder and harder and harder, and they're gonna make our lives a living hell. Besides that, education. I ran into people who weren't necessarily transphobic, but they just didn't know anything about trans people. I had a therapist who otherwise was a great therapist, but I remember when I first told him I was trans, he was like, were you trans because your dad was sexist and you being male would make him prefer you? And I was like, no. No, that's, no. Luckily he didn't bring it up after that, but, you know. I had what we call a CASA, which is a child advocate. In Texas, they're your guardian ad litems. In some states, your attorney's both your attorney and guardian ad litem. In Texas, it's the CASA. They're volunteers. And most CASAs are pretty good, but mine would say, you know, she was an older lady, and she was like, I'm a feminist, right? I'm a Democrat. I vote for Democrats all the time. I'm a feminist. And I remember when I wanted to start testosterone, she was the main reason I wasn't able to. My caseworker at the beginning supported me, and then she was like, no, this is experimental. I know someone who's a gay man, but he used to be a trans woman, and he detransitioned, and he says it was horrible. And she just fought and fought. At one point, she said, well, why don't you want to be a woman? Is it because, you know, you're not a feminist? And I was like, I can be a feminist and not be a woman. But I think it's things like that. You know, there's uneducated people who just need to be educated about this stuff. And third, we need non-religious foster placements. We need non-religious nonprofits. We need these things because once you include religion, specifically Christianity, it becomes terrifying and it becomes bad. Almost all of my placements were Christian placements. And even though in the Bill of Rights for foster care you're supposed to have religious freedom, you don't get that. They don't allow you to do that. In a lot of placements, if you don't go to church, you just stay at home, you don't do anything. Sometimes they'll even, you know, punish you. I have been written up for not going to church before. So yeah, we need secular places to be. We need secular homes, foster homes, group homes. We need it because for all these religious folk who want to say they want to help, when it comes to trans, non-binary, and gender diverse youth, they really just want to fix you. And there's nothing to fix. And they don't understand that and they don't care.
It's so sad how the stories continue to be so similar, from the therapist to everything, to this whole church thing, and it's just a whole matter of people feeling insecure within themselves. Yeah. Because I don't understand how children are always supposed to be a gift and treasured, but when they don't fit a certain mold, they're disregarded and treated as less than, invalidated. Yeah. And I don't see how that is fair or just in any society. So thank you, Elliot, for the work that you do. Thank you, Lambda Legal. Thank you to each and every one of you that shows up. Thank you.
Jackie.
Yeah,
Baker McKenzie.
Baker McKenzie, yeah, right, yeah. See,
we'll get there.
I got the most important part. Right?
Yes.
Right, and most importantly, thank you to each and every one of you for the bravery. I keep saying bravery and courage and all that stuff, but you have no idea how you move my soul and my spirit for the simple fact that you are able to stand here and represent for so many other youth out there. Do not ever feel like what you're doing is just only for you. You are standing up for so many people, not just the youth, but for us elders also. Yeah, I'm kind of old now. And I want you to know that I appreciate your work, and I hope each and every one of you in here appreciates everything that these folks are doing up here. Thank you, thank you, Thank you so much. And I would really appreciate if each of you will stand to your feet and give them a round of applause.
Yes.
It's 3:05. We have. Oh. Don't hand the girl. All right.
We'll get you started.
Okay, thank you so much.
Of course, of course. There is 2 more questions. If you have that list, we'll get you there. So there's one last question, and then it's a free-for-all if there's any last comments.
Oh, I thought we had the other panel.
No, yeah, we do, but, okay, here, I got it. So this one, number 7, and then the last one's number 8.
Oh, well, they didn't send us in the
That's
email.
okay.
Okay. Well, we're not done. Okay. And we will never be finished until all of us have all that we need. So, who and where do you hope this report reaches? Some really... Reading this part. Are y'all giving me your notes too?
Who and where do you hope this report reaches? This is for Jackson, Sean, and Gina.
Okay, for Jackson, Sean, and Gina. Who do you hope this report reaches?
For me, I hope this report gets into the foster families. I think it's really important that they hear this message and that it changes their hearts on a lot of policies and things that they have going on right now.
For me, I really want this to reach the reservations all around the country. What do you call it? Sorry.
You're okay.
I want this to be prevalent in 7-10 years. We really believe in looking out for the 7th generation. So I'm not just thinking about my grandkids, I'm thinking about their grandkids and their grandkids. I'm thinking about your grandkids, your great-grandchildren. I want them to be able to see this and know that we made this difference for them, that we were thinking of them before they were even here.
I would like for it to reach my community in Southeast Los Angeles and generally all around this country and nationally, and especially to the St. Francis Emergency Medical Department that denied me service in February when I was experiencing some terrible symptoms of seizures and just being aware of my diagnoses of cavernoma of the brain. I knew I was supposed to get an MRI and I requested to get an MRI while I was in emergency care. And this emergency nurse, who not only is a male identified nurse but also a Caucasian nurse, denied me that MRI and responded with, are you telling me how to do my job? And I was escorted by 4 male security guards with hospital socks, no coat, it was drenching of rain, and I had to walk in a horrible condition with blood in my brain that I knew I had, but I was refused of an MRI. And so that's why my hair is short and I had long hair. And for trans people who are femme, which I identify and also as an androgynous person, even with long hair or not, I faced a lot of trauma from that experience, and I'm happy to be here today because I am in a room full of policymakers and lawyers. And I have reached out to the Trans Latina Coalition out in Los Angeles because this did happen in Linwood, California. I have not heard from them, and since I'm in this room now with these folks who are policymakers and attorneys, lawyers, I'm bringing up this experience because I hope that people can continue to advocate for themselves, even when they have experiences like I did in emergency rooms, and being aware of my health condition and what I needed and be denied of. I don't plan on stepping down. I have let a lot of things slide in my life, and this one is by far the one that I need help with, because it truly did something to me. As you can see, it's very visible. I don't have access to healthcare other than emergency healthcare, and I was only able to receive that emergency surgery because of emergency healthcare. But that doesn't mean that I'm gonna be able to continue to be covered for more MRIs, for me to continue to see my neurosurgeon, and possibly even get treated for the 3 other cavernomas that I have in my brain. So I hope that this report reaches to that emergency department. I hope that it reaches to Marsha's house. I hope that they know that I'm still not gonna give up. I had a very traumatic experience there. My hair was still involved. My great-great-grandma is Native American Apache, and if there's something about us natives is that our hair is important. And I want this report to reach all of those folks who have shaped me. Again, I am not someone who holds a degree, but I am someone who was taught by my community, and I hope it reaches that person that I adore, that best friend of mine, Rosemary Zayas, who's a youth organizer in Southeast Los Angeles for Communities for a Better Environment, and is such a fierce person who advocates for youth people and young people. And I also hope it reaches Milton Nimatu, who is not only such a great friend to me, but I see as a gay father when I identified as a queer boy, and now I see them as a queer parent, but still a very dear friend to me. And I hope it reaches my family and people in Mexico, where I'm from, Tecate, Baja California, Mexico, and generally all the many countries and states that need to continue to challenge and change policies, laws, and continue the fight for youth, young people, and as Dominique said, elders, because it's not just us young people, it's elders too that are requiring services, needs, and it's not just us young people, as Dominique said again. And yes, I just really hope it reaches many folks, as they said here, reservations, whether it be on the local level, national, state, wherever it is, we're all here present to take these stories to our homes. And yes, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, this is the last one. Anyone?
Okay. Anything else you haven't shared with us, or would you haven't had the chance to share that you would like to share? Any of you?
I just wanted to say thank you all for being here. There's a phrase in Lakota that I want to share with you, Wopilatanka, which is big thanks, but the literal translation is the feeling of gratitude that you're feeling in the moment. So I just want to say wo'opila tanka to all of you guys for coming and for listening to us, and wo'opila tanka to the programs who have invested in us. And Medakuye Oyase, we are all related.
Being the only Black trans girl up here, I would just like to say, like, all of your support is, well needed in the community, and a lot of my sisters are unequivocally murdered than other, queer people, races, sexualities, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I would just like to say, like, this is very important to me to just be here and represent my sisters, and, hopefully this does a lot for us.
Yeah.
I would lastly just say that it's not just the services in the systems of which we are advocating for, it's also the environment, as it's just such a coincidence that the sun is now just shining on as we are finishing with this panel of young people. But yes, let's continue to protect our earth and our lands and whatnot that require our attention to continue to breathe clean air and have clean water and safe places to live.
The final thing I'd like to say is I want to also shout out to parents of queer, trans, non-binary, and gender diverse youth. They are the fighting force in states like Texas, and in Florida, and probably also Oklahoma. They do so much for us, and they protect us, and I've met some of the best people that way. And also, I met my adoptive parents by testifying at the Texas legislature, and my adoptive parents are great and amazing people. And every queer and gender diverse youth should have parents like that because it is amazing.
So I asked Sean, and I will be the last person speaking, I guess, but I just want to say thank you for being here and just really emphasize that this is all of our fight. And by even just being here to listen to us, it not only means a lot, but it really shows that community is everything. And without your support and without listening to us, things wouldn't get done without representation and without the support from y'all. So I really just want to say that we are empowered people and we want you to be empowered people and go fight the fight with us and for us.
Okay, Sean, you're not gonna wrap it up?
Can I wrap it up? Or you wrap it up, for sure. No, I also do want to mention to Marsha's house, because the cameras are here, that it was also Marsha's house that damaged my hair. I was showering with hot boiling water for 3 years of residing at Marsha's house. I am not kidding, it was hot boiling shower, no option for cold water at all. I have proof. I have not done anything on the legal services to require any accountability, but Marsha's house and the administration and the DHS system generally, that I hope that $2 million grant that was given to Marsha's house while I resided at Marsha's house is still being used for good use, because it was not being used for no good when I was there. I had salmonella a few times It is proven with records, medical records, that I had salmonella because of the food I was eating. I had no way of getting access to housing, and I still don't have any access to housing with a voucher, with a housing voucher. I'm still undocumented, I'm still undocumented, and I still hope that this, behind me, that it wasn't Biden who denied me service. It was the Secret Service who denied me service, but Biden couldn't do it himself. And I'm sure that Biden is still not gonna do anything about it, even if I approach him in a respectful way. But thank you very much for allowing me to say this right now.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to do this once again. Stand to your feet and give them a round of applause. Thank you all so very much. To each and every one of you, I commend you. You are phenomenal human beings, and please continue to do the work that you are doing.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, so welcome Shruti and Meredith and Elliot.
Yes.
All right, how are we feeling? Okay, good. Let's get the light back in the room. Let's do this. All right, so tell us a bit about how non-binary youth navigate legal systems, policy, and practice. Why is it important for us to think about specific challenges for non-binary youth? Shruti, you first, then Elliot, and Meredith. And this is how they wrote it, I don't.
You're great. You're great.
You know.
Perfect.
Disclaimer.
We take the heat. You're doing great.
Hello. I can see why y'all struggle with
Here,
this.
try this one.
Okay.
That one should be on.
Hello. Oh, okay. Hi everyone, my name is Shruti Swaminathan. I use they, them pronouns. I'm a staff attorney for youth with Lambda Legal, and I've been with Lambda for 3 years now. I work out of the New York office, but almost all of my litigation efforts take place in states that have passed anti-LGBTQ legislation, and specifically anti-trans and non-binary legislation. It's a really hard act to follow. All of the information that you heard from the youth contributors with their lived experience and their incredible knowledge and advocacy, focus on that. I am here just to echo all of the amazing things that they have shared with you and to tell you a little bit about what the report does, which is really call for more data, more research on non-binary youth specifically. Many of you are practitioners in this room, and I'm sure you may have noticed in your own practice the growing number of young people who identify as non-binary. I think some of the latest data shows that 1 in 4 LGBTQ youth identify as non-binary. However, there is slim to no data on the specific and unique needs of our community. And so in the report, we do present the data that we have, but also make an ask of folks like you in this room who are policy folks or research folks to study this population and its specific needs a bit further. And so just speaking from our own lived experience, we as non-binary people, we're both hyper-visible and invisible. We're invisible because we're erased by the binary system and the assumptions that it makes. And we're also super visible because we can't be categorized within that binary system. I think this is even more salient in the context of courts and the legal landscape. On the one hand, federal courts have started to interpret federal and state anti-discrimination statutes as being inclusive of trans and non-binary people and our identities. And then on the other hand, like all of these folks mentioned, is that states across the country are taking new horrendous measures to stop non-binary adults and non-binary minors from being legally recognized in public spaces. And so states have made it very clear what their desire is, and it is to erase us from public life by promulgating a strict definition of biological sex. Under that definition, there are only 2 sexes, male and female, and they're designated based solely on their reproductive capacity or their sperm or their ova. And these bills have been touted in the name of protecting cis women and cis girls, but we all know that it's plainly an attack on our existence. And 21 states have now defined the term biological sex in this way to erase us out of that definition, which is just extremely harmful. And what we're seeing over the last few years in terms of anti-LGBTQ legislation is a direct attack on our healthcare, our well-being, our bodily autonomy. And we see this through bans on access to healthcare, as Caden was speaking to, sports bans, restroom restrictions, and don't say gay and trans legislations. Politicians have placed us at the center of this social and political debate, which is a debate that should not exist in the first place because it is quite frankly a debate on our existence. And we, as living proof here, we exist, we're not going anywhere, and it's about time that we start having the legal recognition and the protections afforded to us that we're entitled to under the law. And even with respect to litigation, much of the strategic decision-making is centered around which stories are most palpable to the courts, or how can a judge best understand a trans identity. For example, in the context of challenges to healthcare bans, the expert testimony put forth in the case, it speaks to a very linear example of how people access care generally. But we all know that accessing care is an extremely individualized, very personal decision and relationship between us, our providers, maybe the folks who care for us in our lives, certainly not politicians. And so, in these challenges, the way that we present how this care is accessed as, puberty delaying treatment, then hormone therapy, then surgery, that is just not all of our reality. Some of us may only access surgery, some of us may only access HRT. We all don't have the same path, and so we can't be viewed in a way that expects us to. And so, me accessing surgery but not HRT doesn't make me any less or more non-binary than any of my colleagues who have done it a different way. And so, in addition to the direct harms of these laws, like the way it allows us and doesn't allow us to access certain spaces or navigate the institutions that we're in, it also has created this atmosphere of hostility that you all spoke so much more eloquently than me to. It has an effect on our mental health. For example, I think the Trevor Project's most recent survey found that 1 in 3 LGBTQ young people said that their mental health was poor most of the time or always due to anti-LGBTQ legislation and the way in which we are spoken about in media and the way that our identities are weaponized against us. And nearly 2 in 3 LGBTQ young people said that hearing about potential state or local laws banning people from discussing LGBTQ people at school, our identities, our parents' identities, things like that, have made their mental health just catastrophically worse. And so I'm going to turn it over to Meredith to talk about what affirming non-binary young people looks like in policy and practice, and then I think we're going to circle back to also share some of our personal non-binary joy.
Yeah, thanks so much for that. You touched a lot on the need, and I'm just going to highlight a couple more things. That very few states are explicitly acknowledging the existence and the needs of non-binary youth. We do have a lack of research, but the little research that we do have, shows that non-binary youth are struggling with mental health, inclusivity, and systems that are not built to support them. And are forced to either fit in a box or completely being left out. And so we know even without this research that there are some practices that make life for non-binary youth in out-of-home care systems better, and that there are actions that state governments and agencies can take now. Some of that looks like moving away from sex or gender segregated spaces and arbitrary restrictions that are categorized as well-intentioned or for the safety of some, but not in reality not inclusive and putting others in danger. And we also want to think about what safety and well-being looks like for everyone. Everyone has individual needs, and when we're looking at non-binary youth, I think the most important thing we can do is look to a young person and ask them what they want and need to feel supported and cared for. Because it might not look different for every non-binary person. We also can do this through interpersonal relationships. Those we mentioned on the panel earlier. Folks, I'm sure, have read this in other reports and other research that when young people are connected with, LGBTQ young people are connected with a supportive adult, that their mental health is much better. they have community connections, and can access some of the critical care that they need. And so we want to be able to help young people build those relationships so that they can share and explore their identity and feel empowered to advocate for what they want and need. We also want to give non-binary youth a chance, like I said, or 2 or 3 chances to tell you what they need as they go through their journey. I think that no young person's identity is necessarily static, and so this doesn't look like one conversation with young people. It looks like multiple conversations and continued support. And just creating the breathing room for young people to explore themselves in these spaces, and not assuming that there's a one-size-fits-all solution. I think in policies we're sometimes looking for that fix, and I think there are some ways in which we do need those protections, and then in other cases where we need more freedom for young people to be able to come up with a more individualized plan and be able to advocate for those needs. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, Elliot, about practice.
Yeah, I think just in general, I feel like I have a spiel of things that I say a lot, so just give me the microphone and repeat it again. So for me, growing up in care, I knew that I couldn't transition while I was in care. I grew up in Wyoming, I navigated conversion therapy, I survived that, I moved to Portland, knew it would be better to live in Oregon and transition as an adult. I would have loved to have had my childhood doing the task of adolescence, which is figuring out who I was, instead of waiting to adulthood to finally get to be who I am. There's this delay in queer experiences where you start to get back some of your childhood, but you have to do it as an adult. Now you also have to do it with your bills and with everything else, also at play at the same time, right? And so the challenge of that for me was, I want young people in care to not have that experience, but to have that experience, we need providers whose reaction to a young person telling them who they are isn't anger, fear, whatever, insecurity. It's, thank you so much for this gift, for telling me who you are, for letting me see the real person that you are. That's the experiences that I want young people to have, that start from that place of curiosity and interest, rather than people, I think, losing sight of the fact that when you're coming to do a job, regardless of if you agree with that person or not, you came to do a job, not to make that person believe your beliefs. We sort of lose sight of that in, I think, a lot of the noise that happens in the news and in media and in politics. Being in service to others doesn't mean in service to others of what I think is best for them, and we lose that. My undergrad study was in queer studies and gender studies, and what I appreciated about that was it made me really think about how gender harms all of us. Gender is something that we should be able to play with and expand upon and figure out who we are, but gender harms us just as much as it harms anyone else. It tells us how much to be a woman, and if we're not enough, then we're not enough of a woman, so we must not be. If you're not man enough, if you're not all these things, then you're going to fall short. If you go to the airport and they can't figure out if you're a man or a woman, you might get scanned or even patted down more because they weren't sure what showed up as a genital anomaly. Which again, why am I at the airport even having to talk about my genitals, right? I'm trying to be on a plane to get where I'm going, not a danger to national security. Neither are young people who are not allowed in the White House, right? But to hear from the people that you're supposed to support, you have to find ways to let go of those things and actually give people access, if it's the people's house. I think another thing that Shruti was sharing with us when we were sort of planning for this conversation that really was angering and interesting was how hard it is for them to put forward a non-binary young person in a court case because the courts aren't prepared for it. The courts aren't prepared to understand the complexity of gender beyond male and female. So if you put a non-binary young person in there, well, you spend most of your time educating the judge just to get them to a place to protect that young person and their vast identity, which is insane to me because even hearing the news, thinking that that was already sort of happening, and it's, no, we still have such a long way to go for courts to actually be able to be a part of the conversation while they think that they're some of the smartest people. I know a lot of attorneys who are lovely and are very intelligent, and then there's also folks who I think got power and some of their intelligence, they haven't found it yet. It's lost. So thinking critically is something that I would like for people to experience because non-binary youth actually aren't complicated. they're wonderful. They're actually more understanding of difference and not needing to be one thing. And that would be so good for so many things, to have that sort of understanding. I think non-binary youth likely also aren't palatable to the court system. Again, it doesn't fit this binary system. But young people should be able to thrive and have joy, and a court say, that looks like that young person is doing well. I have no concerns here then. But that's not what's happening. I think another thing is for us to consider as people who do this work, if we avoid topics that we see as controversial, which point blank period, non-binary youth, queer youth are not controversial, they just exist. If we think it's controversial, that's our problem. But I think that we need to be able to hold ourselves accountable to understanding that we don't have these conversations and we don't put in protections for non-binary youth or queer youth. We might actually be a part of causing harm by doing nothing. Neutral is not neutral, right? And so that's something that I find myself more and more frustrated in spaces where it feels like people are choosing and mishearing that, well, if I don't say anything, maybe I won't cause harm because people are misunderstanding me, to the point where we're not having the conversation, or people are afraid to talk about it. And that is really terrifying for me, when there was a sort of an uptick in people being willing to join the conversation, talk about it, and advocate, and now I see that less and less. And so please have the conversation. Say the wrong thing so we can correct you and get it right and move forward, rather than avoiding things that are so important. I've been doing child welfare advocacy as a person with lived experience for many years now, and I feel like there's still so few of us in this space doing this work, be it because it's hard, or be it because people don't trust us or invest in us enough to do it. And so for these young people to have the space to say, you don't understand us because you're not even talking to us. You're not making space for us. So finding ways for non-binary youth, queer youth, and trans youth to be able to take up that space, I think is critical if we actually want to make meaningful, impactful progress on the care that they receive. Because right now, systems are set up to support men and women and binary young people, and not the vast experience of gender that young people are able to access now, today. And I think that's just vitally important. And maybe the last thing I'll say here is, we can't understand a population if we don't even know who they are. So if we don't collect data, but let alone data that includes the vast experience of gender, how are we going to be able to talk about their needs and what their experiences are when we don't collect it? I understand there's a concern around, if we collect the data, will someone do something bad with that? I would push back on that and say we collect data about a lot of people and still do bad things with it. That doesn't stop us with other populations. So my worry is, by not doing it, we're also doing that thing of, well, it's to protect them. But by doing that, am I also benefiting the system that says, great, let's continue to not understand them and erase them? So I challenge us to do more and to do better. And with that, I've said a lot of things. I think we should transition our panel to bring up our law and policy folks. Is there anything else you wanted to share? Joy or no? Joy, yes.
Joy, yeah, let's get joy in there, please.
Tell us about your joy.
Go for it. Well, I think just in hearing all of you all talk, I'm just so inspired, and it's like just incredible to have 6, 7, hopefully when I meet the last youth contributor, 70 friends, and you all are really inspirational, and just it's meant so much to me to be here on a non-binary panel with 3 non-binary friends. What I was thinking is, if you can't categorize us, you can't control us, right? And so we certainly cannot be controlled, and that is a very good feeling. That's my joy from being in this space with you all.
Yeah, I think I'll echo a little bit of that and saying, like, I definitely get joy from the boundary pushing and the liberation that comes with existing outside of some of these boxes, and then finding community that also relates to parts of my experience and is sharing parts of their experience in a way that feels, like a lot more is possible. And I think that translates to other parts of my life when I see other non-binary people living as their authentic selves. I think it's powerful, and yeah, that is also joyful.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that it is, and please, round of applause.
Yes.
I just have to say this, and to many of you in the room, as an identified woman and the woman that I am, I find it really incredible to be able to stand in the world and say to someone, no, I'm non-binary. I think that's where the real power is. And I think our societal construct is so confused now because it's like you have to be a man or you have to be a woman. And that makes me comfortable to see you as a woman and see you as a man, knowing that you are doing the things that I think you're supposed to be doing, so I'm comfortable. But what 2 or more consenting adults do in their space is their business. We should not have to sit here to make policy to fight against the harm that is being caused to people who actually have it right. We put gender on clothes. We constrict ourselves, we hurt ourselves, and then we turn around and cause harm to others because they actually have it right. So I thank you all.
I think for me, joy is very much like what you've all experienced with the youth contributors. Y'all are truly like, this has been one of the coolest projects that I've gotten to do in my adulthood. And you're talented, you're smart, you're funny, you care about each other, like you've known each other for like maybe 24 hours other than some virtual Zoom meetings, and you all are like checking in with each other. Like, I love community. It brings me a lot of joy that we like look out for each other and check in on each other. Last night at dinner, Shruti had a great icebreaker question for us in the like sweatiest, hottest restaurant we've ever been to. Oh my gosh. But we were sort of asking like what brings us joy, like what do we, what we love about queer joy and all of that. And I think hearing everyone's answers to that was also such a testament to it of community and happiness and friendship and experiences and being supported, that like amongst all of the crap that people will try to do to us, we find joy. We find ways to dance and to create art and just to look out for each other, to look beautiful, right? No matter what's going on. And so that for me is a part of like, I could do this work the rest of my life with all the crap that's happening, because regardless, we find a way to have joy and experiences and can forget a lot of that stuff when we need to. So thank you for being with us in both our pain, but also please remember that youth deserve joy all the time, not just to be seen for the traumas and harms they've experienced, but they absolutely deserve joy.
All right, we'll just reintroduce ourselves real quick. I'm Curry Cook, Lambda Legal, Senior Counsel and Youth and Home Care Project Director.
Hi everyone, Alex Kocha, pronouns he, him. I'm over at Center for Study of Social Policy, where I work a lot on economic supports and justice for people to prevent out-of-home care.
Hi, my name is Maya Zelkind. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the paralegal for the Youth and Out-of-Home Care Project at Lambda, and so I work with Curry in our New York office.
I'm Danielle Gerard. I'm a senior staff attorney at Children's Rights. We do class action litigation to improve all of these systems for all the young people.
Awesomeness. We have a little Prince Harry look going on. Is it just me? I was feeling it. Okay. Alex, what does it look like when policies support children and youth and families in their homes and communities?
Thank you. Well, that made my day. I think we can all go home now. That was good. So, I mean, we've heard a lot about this already, so I'll just sort of lift up a few things. I think Emilio said community is everything, and that's really what we're talking about when we're talking about investing, making sure that folks do not have to enter into out-of-home care. Prevention really does happen outside of systems, without surveillance, in communities. And it's everything from affirming healthcare, inclusive schools, supporting spaces where young people can grow and learn about their identity, and also be connected with their family as part of that identity development and part of that exploration. And so when we think about support in communities, that's really where prevention is. So it's about investing resources in these communities, in trusted community organizations, and also making sure that there's legal protection for the people who are using those services, so that they know that those services can be trusted, they know that there's accountability to them as young people. And I think that was something that Kaden, you mentioned, right, as the importance of accountability of these systems. So I'll just highlight a few efforts that we've seen so far. So the Children's Bureau issued an informational memorandum that's about the importance of supporting and affirming LGBTQI plus children and youth in the foster system through titles 4B and 4E for, quote, family preservation services. And what's really important there is around 4B, which is a small pot of money, but it allows for community-driven solutions and is not restricted by some of the more restrictive evidence requirements for other programs in 4E. In some states, like Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, there's systems and communities who have implemented very specific community-based programs. So we're looking at things that are designed to promote acceptance by families, the ability to locate supportive family members and kin, and connections to community supports and other supportive adults. And so those are very much intended to be outside of the child welfare system and outside of surveillance. When we talk about protection for using those services, one example that comes to mind is New York. In New York State Code, provisions regarding prevention services specifically include non-discrimination protections for youth and families on the basis of sex, sexual orientation, and gender identity and expression. And that's another element of this accountability that is so crucial. So these are a few bright spots. Obviously, there is many more resources and investment that needs to occur. And that's why listening to the recommendations that we heard earlier from our youth contributors is so important. And so I'm excited for the Safe Havens 2 report to really reach who our youth contributors wanted it to reach, so that we can better understand where to make those investments. So thank you all for being here with us.
Thank you, Alex. Maya, do I have that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. We know there have been a lot of bad laws and policies enacted in recent years. Has there been progress at the state level in some places?
Yes, there has. Happy to report. So I'm going to bring up a few highlights and then also an overview of some developments since 2017 when the first report was published. So we're going to start with the New Mexico Human Rights Act, which was expanded in 2023 to include public contractors, which include anyone who's contracting with the government as well as government entities. To prohibit discrimination. And this is really important because it has broad reach, providing protections for young people in out-of-home care and across systems, and is non-system specific. And then on to the next one, which is that New Mexico also then expanded their regulatory framework to be more robust and have non-discrimination protections, as you can see up there, as well as prohibiting in their licensing requirements for foster parents to discourage I can't read it from here, but basically New Mexico is a model state of having not only statutory but regulatory protections that are robust and across different systems for foster youth and then across the many different systems. So, next one. Specifically in foster care, this is a bright spot that Arizona in 2017 had no non-discrimination protections for foster youth, and largely as a result of work done by an LGBT youth work group that Curry helps lead in Arizona, brings together local stakeholders, which includes young people with lived experience, as well as practitioners who work directly with young people to help develop policy. And now, happy to report that Arizona has a non-discrimination policy that includes sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression, as well as some pretty robust practice guidance that goes beyond just a basic non-discrimination. And then to the next slide. Unfortunately, in the youth experiencing homelessness sector, we have not seen a lot of change. This is a place where there's an immense opportunity for growth. There are only 3 states, and Connecticut is the only state since 2017 that has added protections, which you can see up there. And so this is a space that we haven't seen a lot of growth, but there are model policies out there to really expand available protections. And then for juvenile justice, I'm just going to give an overview, which is that So now there are 37 states that have non-discrimination protections based on gender identity for youth in juvenile justice. In their law or regulation or policy, and that is 18 states have added since 2017. So while there is room for growth, it is really impressive that 18 states out of the 37 that have them have added in this time. And going beyond just non-discrimination protections, like Arizona having this practice guidance or LGBT-specific policies that go beyond just non-discrimination to have training requirements, requiring placements that are affirming of a young person's gender identity, using the pronouns they use, having confidentiality, grievance, procedures that are available for accountability, access to gender-affirming healthcare. And so since 2017, 10 states have added policies that are like this in the juvenile justice space. And so now there are 21 states that have LGBT-specific practice or policy guidance. There's more to come. This will all be in a map that is able to scroll and click, and you can look at all the research. There's a lot of it. So yeah, I'll pass it on.
Thank you so much, Maya. Curry, there have been some recent updates in federal law and policy that impact youth in out-of-home systems, right?
Yes.
What are some of those?
And bless you for reading my handwriting. Because it's terrible, so I apologize. But yes, so we have seen some really important federal regulatory developments, many of which just came out hot off the presses just in the last few weeks. So also, since this update is covering since 2017, we had the Trump administration, which attempted to pull back and wipe out a lot of protections and regulations. So part of what the Biden administration has been doing is getting those back, making some of them stronger. So folks probably heard that Title IX, which protects discrimination programs that receive federal funding through the Department of Education, has now included and sort of enshrined the guidance from the Supreme Court that came out in the context of the Bostock case, that sex, as it appears as a protected class, includes sexual orientation and gender identity and gender stereotyping. So that applies to any schools or educational facilities that receive funding. So that's really great. Also, Section 1557 of the Affordable Care Act prohibits discrimination on the basis of gender identity and gender stereotyping in any programs that receive federal funding from the Department of Health programs. And so that's really important for young people in foster care and other systems, because a lot of them unfortunately end up in acute residential psychiatric treatment facilities or residential treatment facilities or other places that receive federal health dollars to fund their work, and also young people receive those services largely through Medicaid. So that's a place where there are some accountability measures to file a complaint with the U.S. Office of Civil Rights if you have been discriminated in those sections. So that was huge. The Health and Human Services grant regulation came out. Unfortunately, that one only enshrines the same protections I had talked about around sex in programs where sex appears as a protected class on the underlying federal statute. So really in the weeds in some of this, but it's just to say that while we should have really comprehensive protections across the board in all of these systems, because like how can you be removed from home and placed in government care involuntarily, or receiving services because you're homeless, you've been placed in detention, and not expect the basics of not being harmed by the systems you're in, but yet we're not quite there yet. Like, we don't have that comprehensive protection in federal statute, so this is sort of piecemeal putting it together. One regulation that just recently came out, the Administration for Children and Families and HHS, was a designated placement under Title 4E and 4B for LGBTQ children that Alex mentioned. Another one that in a perfect world we shouldn't have to have, because every young person in foster care is required to have a safe and appropriate placement under federal law, but clearly we've heard that that is not happening for LGBTQ youth. So this reg says explicitly that foster care agencies must provide a designated placement for youth in foster care that is safe, is not harmful, they're not harassed, they're not abused, right, the baseline, We had hoped it went a little farther to just prohibit discrimination across the board for all youth and all families, so hopefully that's someplace that we can get in coming years. It still doesn't require all providers to be supportive and affirming, but does create a process for some to be specifically designated placements, so it's a wonderful step forward, and we all need to push for more, like having the Every Child Deserves a Family Act and the Equality Act that will put those comprehensive protections in place for everyone, including queer families and queer foster and adopted families and queer kin, because they often also experience a lot of discrimination when they could be there to provide homes for folks so they don't end up in group care places. But thank you.
Thank you, Curry. Danielle, the pieces Curry spoke about were regulatory and policy in nature. Do trans and non-binary youth in systems have other rights?
Thank you for asking that question, and thank you to Curry and Alex and Maya for going through the good, the bad, and the ugly. I only have 9 things to say, but I do want to thank everybody for the work you've done so far, and I do want to say the youth contributors are a very hard act to follow, and so it sort of frames the 9 points I'm going to make about federal law in the courts, because there's some painful law and there's some joyful law, and there's more hope than we think. There are fundamental constitutional rights of transgender, non-binary, and gender diverse youth, but they're not frequently top of mind in systems by and large that do a poor job for all children. Without explicit protection and a framework of support, TNGD youth remain at risk, a risk that has now grown, as you all heard all day, even greater in many states. The Supreme Court has enshrined non-discrimination protections for LGBTQ workers, as Curry mentioned in Bostock, and many lower federal courts have halted attempts to roll back LGBTQ civil rights by several states. But certainly for the work that Children's Rights does, youth in state custody, including TNGD youth, must be protected from unreasonable risk of harm and unequal treatment, and have the right to freedom of speech and expression. These rights have been affirmed in decisions by the 5th and 9th circuits, when specific to the juvenile legal system. There's a case called RGV Kohler, which remains the only federal civil rights case brought on behalf of LGBTQ youth in a juvenile detention facility with a hopeful outcome. Bostock ruling informs decisions regarding sex discrimination protection under many statutes, as Curry just went through. Unfortunately, 2 circuit courts of appeal have heard cases about the rights of transgender students and came down on opposite sides. The 4th Circuit found that discrimination based on transgender status is discrimination on the basis of sex, but the 11th Circuit found that a Florida county's policy of excluding transgender students from restrooms consistent with their identity did not violate the Constitution. So there's a little bit of a lot of attention there. I just want to point out that on the screens are most of the cases that we address in the Safe Havens 2.0, and I do refer you to that for a much more elaborate discussion of all of this law. But in other significant cases involving TNGD people, federal courts uniformly rejected attempts to exclude transgender people from military service, enjoined some states' attempts to limit or ban gender-affirming medical care for minors, permitted transgender students to participate in school sports, and officially recognized non-binary identity. And luckily, most federal court rulings show that despite political rhetoric and attacks that we've all discussed today associated with anti-TNGD bills and policies, courts regard government actions that exclude TNGD people or treat them differently than non-TNGD people under the law as unconstitutional or contrary to statutory prohibitions against sex discrimination. So there is some good news, And all of these principles that I've really gone over very briefly should apply to TNGD youth in government care or custody, or who benefit from or participate in government programs. So I urge you to read the Safe Havens 2.0 report when it comes out. We have not covered every single thing today, and you can learn more about what's hopeful and maybe a little bit less about what's painful.
Thank you so very much. Give your panelists a round of applause.